Right now, in August 2026, there are Shopify merchants being quoted £40,000 to migrate their store APIs.
Yeah, 40,000. It is a massive number.
It is, and it's all because of a single word sitting in Shopify's documentation, which is the word legacy.
Right. Just that one word.
Just that one word. But, what if I told you that depending on your setup, you might not have to pay a single dime of that?
Which I think is exactly what people need to hear right now.
Exactly. So welcome the learner to this deep dive. Our mission today is to demystify this massive source of anxiety in the e-commerce world right now, which is Shopify's transition from the REST admin API to GraphQL.
And it is a transition that has generated just a tremendous amount of noise. I mean, we are seeing agency newsletters, tech blogs, search results, practically screaming at store owners to panic buy a migration before their stores break.
Oh yeah, the hype is everywhere.
Yeah.
And that panic makes sense if you don't really know the mechanics behind it. Because usually when a piece of software breaks, there is this expectation of clarity.
Right, like a visible problem.
Exactly, like getting a flat tire on a car. You hear a loud pop, the car pulls sharply to the right, you get out, and the mechanic just points and says, well, there is the hole. It's incredibly visible.
But when you step into the world of e-commerce APIs, server-side data, platform updates, that flat tire analogy is completely useless.
Yeah.
We're looking at a technical landscape that is murky. It is rarely just a binary of working versus broken.
Okay, let's unpack this. I am so excited to save you, the learner, from unnecessary stress and budget drain today. We are going to look at the actual documentation, cut through all those sales pitches, and really find out if this GraphQL migration is actually your bill to pay.
And we should definitely set the baseline right away.
Go for it.
Our core thesis for this deep dive is this. For a very large share of merchants listening, nothing in this so-called urgent transition requires your budget right now.
Wait, really? Nothing at all?
For a huge portion of them, yes. The panic basically lives in the gap between what Shopify actually published and what the internet heard.
Okay, that is fascinating. But before we even get to the timelines and the panic, let's just ground this for the listener. Why is Shopify even forcing this change?
Right. That's the point of it.
Yeah, what makes GraphQL so much better than the old REST system that it justifies shaking up the whole ecosystem?
Well, it comes down to server efficiency and how data is requested. Think of REST like ordering from a highly rigid set menu at a restaurant.
Okay, a set menu.
Yeah. So if you want to know a product's price, you have to order the product meal, which means the kitchen, Shopify's servers, brings you the price, but they also bring the description, the image URLs, the weight, the vendor, and just everything else.
Even if I just wanted the fries.
Exactly. Even if you just wanted the fries, you get the whole tray. And if you want data about a customer and their recent orders, you have to make multiple round trips to completely different restaurants.
Oh man, that sounds wildly inefficient. I'm guessing doing that millions of times a second is a nightmare for the platform.
Precisely. It's a massive drag on resources. Now, GraphQL changes that completely. GraphQL is, well, it's like walking up to a buffet with a highly specific, tailored list and handing it to a personal chef.
I love the sound of that.
Right. You say, I want this specific product's price, the customer's email, and the tracking number for their last order.
Just those three.
Just those three. The chef goes back, grabs exactly those things, and hands them to you in one single incredibly efficient trip. It saves massive amounts of computing power for Shopify.
That makes total sense.
But it requires the apps connecting to Shopify to completely change how they ask for the data.
Got it. So the underlying architecture is vastly superior. But the problem is really how the phase-out of the old REST system has been communicated.
Yes, the communication has been messy.
Let's look at the actual timeline then. Shopify labeled the REST admin API as legacy way back on October 1st, 2024.
And that applied to the whole REST admin API with no carve-outs by app type. But here is the crucial distinction that search results and, frankly, agency salespeople completely gloss over.
What's that?
The difference between a status and an event.
Oh, that is the whole ball game right there. Legacy is a status.
Exactly.
It describes where something sits in a product's life cycle. It basically just means, hey, we aren't building new features for this anymore.
Right, no new updates.
An event, on the other hand, has a hard date attached to it where something actually stops working. And here's the fact. As of today, August 2026, there is still no published removal or shutdown date anywhere in Shopify's documentation for the REST admin API.
And that absence is the most important detail. Urgent-sounding tech blogs, conveniently leave it out.
They just skip right over it.
They take the status of legacy and intentionally conflate it with a shutdown event just to create artificial urgency.
So calling it legacy is like a car manufacturer saying they are no longer designing new cup holders for a 2014 model, but they aren't coming to your driveway in the middle of the night to tow the car away.
That is a perfect analogy. The car stays in the driveway. It still drives perfectly well for the commute it was designed for.
Right.
Now, we do need to address a couple of dates that actually did pass, because this is where the wires got crossed for a lot of people.
February 1st, 2025 and April 1st, 2025.
Yes, those two dates.
Let's clear those up because they matter, just not in the way people think. The February 1 deadline required public apps, meaning the ones you install directly from the Shopify App Store, to move to the new GraphQL product APIs.
Right, public apps.
But if you are a merchant, that was the vendor's bill to pay, not yours. If you just click install on an app for reviews or loyalty points, it's the app creator's job to update their software to Shopify's new standards or get kicked out of the store.
Exactly. You, the store owner, don't pay for that migration directly. It's basically baked into your monthly subscription to that app.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the second date, April 1st, 2025, that had two parts.
Right. First, it mandated that any custom apps already using older GraphQL product fields had to move to newer GraphQL fields.
Notice that is a GraphQL to GraphQL move. It has absolutely nothing to do with REST.
Exactly, nothing at all. Second, it required that all new public apps submitted to the App Store from that day forward use GraphQL.
Again, affecting new app submissions by developers, not your existing store setup.
So if App Store vendors handle the public app problem, let's look at what else we can cross off your worry list before we isolate the actual risks. Because the deeper we look, the bigger this not my problem pile actually gets.
Oh, totally. What's fascinating here is how multiple, completely unrelated deprecation stories constantly get folded into this REST to GraphQL transition.
It creates a sort of snowball effect of anxiety. Let's look at headless storefronts, for example.
This one blew my mind during the research. If you paid an agency to build a beautiful, fast, headless storefront, and some blog told you your storefront API is at risk and you need to migrate off REST,
That blog is fundamentally wrong.
completely wrong, isn't it?
Completely wrong. Shopify's documentation is explicit. The storefront API, the system that powers headless builds, is and always was available only in GraphQL. There is literally no REST API for storefronts. If a developer is quoting you to migrate your headless front end from REST to GraphQL, they're either deeply confused or actively trying to pull one over on you.
That is wild. Okay, what about the customer account API? That's the interface behind the customer login pages where people check their order history.
Well, that API has its own deprecation story and its own timetable for moving away from legacy customer accounts. It is entirely separate from the REST admin API deprecation we are talking about today.
And the same goes for Shopify scripts and functions, right? Your custom checkout logic, like complex bulk discounts or highly specific shipping rules,
Yes.
different technology, different dates, entirely separate from the admin API.
Totally separate.
Oh, and here's a terminology quirk that trips people up. What if your paperwork from an agency says they built you a private app 5 years ago?
That is just a cosmetic terminology update. If your older paperwork says private app, that is simply Shopify's old terminology for what they now call a custom app. The name changed, but the foundation hasn't crumbled underneath you. And just to be completely thorough, your theme code, your liquid files, your snippets, your sections, none of that applies here either.
Because theme code is not an admin API client. It renders on Shopify servers directly.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know who isn't affected. Headless is safe. Public apps are the vendor's problem. Themes are fine. Checkout scripts are separate. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The custom apps.
Let's zero in on the custom apps that are actually built on REST. Let's say you have a custom integration tying your Shopify store to a legacy warehouse system. There is a secret weapon hiding in the change logs for those apps.
Massive carve-out. Shopify provided a safety net. Custom apps built on REST that do not need to support more than 100 variants per product can continue to use the deprecated REST product APIs indefinitely.
Indefinitely. I mean, that's huge. But let's look at the numbers, because this safety net can easily turn into a trapdoor.
Yes, it can.
The carve-out threshold is 100 variants. But meanwhile, back in October 2025, Shopify raised the platform-wide product variant limit to 2,048.
Right. It historically used to be capped at 100 for everyone.
And that creates a massive tension. The arrangement is open-ended, but only until your product catalog outgrows it.
If your custom inventory app uses those deprecated REST APIs, you cannot raise your store's limit past 100 variants, even though the Shopify platform itself can now seamlessly support up to 2048.
Okay, let me make sure I'm getting the practical application of this. If I sell a technical jacket that comes in 10 colors and 11 sizes, that is 110 variants.
Right.
If my custom warehouse app is running on the old REST API, what happens? Does the app just break?
The app doesn't break, it becomes a ceiling. It will literally block you from saving that product with those last 10 variants.
Wow.
This is what we mean by maintenance mode. The old REST endpoints will dutifully keep answering your calls, exactly as they always have, but all the new features, like supporting 2048 variants, are only being wired into GraphQL.
So what does this all mean? If the calendar isn't going to force my hand, what actually triggers this massive migration bill?
It usually boils down to two main scenarios. Either your business outgrows the sandbox, or you start touching the code and trigger a platform rule.
Okay,
We can break it down into 5 specific triggers.
let's hear them.
The first is business growth, like we just discussed. Your catalog expands, and a product genuinely needs more than 100 variants. You hit that ceiling, and you are forced to migrate to GraphQL to unlock the extra capacity.
Okay, got it. The second trigger is about touching the code. Let's say you commission new Shopify work.
Yeah.
You hire a developer for a brand new custom app. Shopify platform rules dictate it has to be built on GraphQL anyway.
Right.
If the developer doesn't bundle migrating your old REST integration into that new project scope, you're going to get a painful second invoice for it later.
Yes, that is a huge trap. The third trigger is feature envy. You want a capability the old endpoints simply never received because they are in maintenance mode.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, the fourth trigger is the one that fascinates me the most. It's when your integration's API version ages out of support.
Oh, this one is tricky.
Because Shopify releases a new API version every quarter, right? And their policy guarantees a minimum of 12 months of support per stable version with at least 9 months of overlap.
That's right. And this brings up a concept that is critical to understand, which is falling forward.
Going further.
When your custom app's API version eventually becomes completely unsupported, it doesn't crash. There is no dramatic 404 error page.
Wait, really?
Nope. Shopify simply intercepts your request and responds with the oldest supported stable version's behavior.
Wait, let's stop there. No error message. So my data just starts behaving differently, silently.
Yes.
How on earth is a store owner supposed to diagnose a drop in sales or a messed up inventory count if the API just fell forward into new rules without telling anyone?
It is incredibly difficult to diagnose. Your app thinks it's talking to version 2023, but Shopify is filtering that conversation through the rules of version 2025.
That is terrifying.
It's like a translator quietly changing the meaning of your sentences. You might only notice it because a familiar financial report suddenly looks slightly off, or an inventory sync starts missing a specific type of product.
It's exactly like gravity. There is no alarm bell that rings. When you step off a ledge, you just quietly start falling.
Yep.
And eventually you hit the ground. And the fifth trigger is if you decide to pivot and publish your custom app as a public app on the App Store. At that point, you are subject to the vendor rules and you have real hard deadlines to use GraphQL or you get delisted.
Exactly. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, understanding these triggers is vital because migrating isn't just flipping a switch, it is a major capital expense.
Let's talk real cost. Our research pulled up a public price quote from a UK agency called No7 Software back in May 2026.
Right, the 40,000 pounds.
Yeah, they were quoting £15,000 to £40,000 to migrate a mid-complexity custom app from REST to GraphQL.
To understand that price tag, we really have to go back to our restaurant analogy. The real expense isn't just translating a REST request into a GraphQL request. It is fundamentally re-architecting your back-end systems to handle the new cost structure.
Right. The transition from simple request counting to calculated query costs. Walk us through that mechanism.
Under REST, Shopify used a simple leaky bucket for rate limits. They just counted how many times you knocked on their door.
Okay.
Let's say your limit was 2 requests per second. It didn't matter if you asked for one product's price or 10,000 products with all their images and meta fields. A knock was a knock.
A knock was a knock.
Right. It was easy for a developer to build a simple queue, just send 2 knocks a second until the job is done.
But with GraphQL and that buffet analogy, a single knock can ask for a staggering amount of data.
Exactly. So Shopify had to invent a query cost system to measure how hard their servers are working for each specific request.
Oh, I see.
If you ask for one product price, it might cost 1 point. If you ask for a complex nested list of 1,000 orders and their tracking numbers, it might cost 500 points.
That changes everything.
It does. If you have an app that is continuously syncing thousands of records, your developers have to completely tear down their simple, predictable queuing system.
And build a new one.
Yeah, build a highly complex engine that calculates the weight of every single request before it sends it to make sure it doesn't blow past the point limit. That is why it costs £40,000.
That is a serious bill, which makes waiting sound incredibly appealing.
Yeah.
But what is the actual cost of waiting until one of those triggers forces your hand?
The hidden cost of waiting isn't the developer fee, it's optionality. A migration that you plan and scope thoughtfully over 6 months is quoted fairly.
Because you have leverage.
Exactly. You have time to shop around, test the new system, and negotiate. But a migration that is triggered suddenly because your catalog expanded overnight or your version quietly aged out and your inventory reports are actively breaking, that is bought under extreme pressure.
Right. And the exact same dev work, bought under pressure, is always a demonstrably worse deal.
Okay, so knowing those triggers and understanding the mechanics behind that potential £40,000 price tag, how do you figure out exactly where you stand today?
You need a plan.
I've put together a sort of triage plan for you, the learner, based on the research.
Uh-huh.
A way to map this out without needing a computer science degree. Step 1 has to be finding out what is actually touching your data, right? Taking an inventory.
Yes. You need a comprehensive list of all systems touching your store data. Anything that isn't your front-end theme or a standard App Store app.
So like ERPs?
Right, ERPs, custom warehouse integrations, or bespoke reporting dashboards.
Got it. Step 2, name the owner of each system. Who built it and who maintains it? Because those are very often two completely different people or even different agencies.
Very true. Step 3 is critical for the variant limit. Mark which of these systems actually write products or variants back to Shopify.
Because if it's just reading data, exactly. If an app just pulls orders into your accounting software, it isn't subject to the variant ceiling trap.
Okay, that makes sense. Step 4, ask the owner which API version they are explicitly pinned to. Are they calling a version from 2023 that is about to fall forward?
Yes, find that out.
And step 5, ask if they are calling the specific REST product endpoints.
Once you have those answers, you read step 6, where you decide the outcome. You have 3 choices.
Okay.
You either wait with a named watcher, meaning you assign someone on your team to monitor the change logs in your catalog size, or you fold the migration into a planned upcoming build, or you budget for it now because you realize you've already hit a trigger.
Now, I want to talk about a secret weapon for step 5, the API health report. Because relying purely on an agency's word feels, risky.
It is risky. The API health report is your ground truth. But here's a catch. This report lives exclusively on the Shopify partner dashboard.
Oh, interesting.
Merchants cannot see it in their standard admin panel. You must actively reach out to your developer or agency and say, please export and send me the API health report for our custom apps.
And what does it show?
It will show you, in black and white, exactly which deprecated REST calls your apps are making.
Okay, I have to push back here, though. Given the power dynamic where the agency holds the report, I can totally see a scenario where a developer just says, hey, I looked at it, REST is deprecated, everything is at risk, pay me to rewrite it all right now.
Oh, that definitely happens.
How do I politely say prove it without destroying the working relationship?
You have to calibrate your internal BS detector. And you do that by listening for the difference between a straight technical answer and a sales answer.
Okay, give me an example of a straight answer.
A straight answer is highly specific. They will name the exact API versions you are on. They will give you a clear binary yes or no on whether you are hitting variant endpoints. They will provide the exported report.
Right. And a sales answer is incredibly vague. They'll use phrases like, you'll hit limits sooner or later, or everything on REST is a security risk, which isn't true.
Exactly. That is a classic sales pivot. Another vital question to ask your agency is this. Is this migration covered in our existing maintenance retainer, or does it require a separate project quote?
Oh, that's a good one.
There is no universal standard for this in the industry. What you are listening for is a clear, definitive position either way. If an agency cannot define the boundaries of their own retainer, that is a massive red flag.
I would agree with that.
And crucially, demand that all of these answers are provided in writing.
Bringing all this technical sleuthing back to our ultimate mission for you today, the learner how to be a smart, well-informed owner of your tech stack. Let's summarize the core takeaways.
Sounds good.
Number 1, do not buy a migration this quarter unless one of those triggers applies to you. The overwhelming urgency in the search results is mostly hype.
Number 2, if your store relies entirely on public apps from the Shopify App Store, you can sit back and relax. Your vendors have already handled this transition.
Number 3, if you have custom apps, do the 6-step inventory. Demand the API health report. As a learner, you know that gaining knowledge thoroughly prevents feeling overwhelmed by information overload. You don't have to guess, you can just check the data.
The reality is, this whole ecosystem is designed to keep running. Shopify doesn't want your store to break any more than you do.
Right.
That is why legacy statuses can sit in limbo for years, and why systems silently fall forward instead of crashing and burning.
Which actually leads me to a final thought for you to chew on today. If legacy statuses can sit in limbo for years without a removal date, and APIs can silently fall forward into new rule sets without crashing, without setting off a single alarm,
Yeah,
how much of the modern e-commerce web is currently running on invisible zombie code?
that is a great question.
It's just completely unnoticed by store owners, quietly operating in the background until the exact moment they desperately need to scale, and then, boom, they hit a ceiling they didn't even know was there.
This raises an incredibly important question about the true nature of technical debt. The water on the surface looks totally calm, but you never really know what sort of infrastructure is rotting just beneath the surface.
Exactly. We started by talking about how nice it is when a flat tire is just a visible flat tire. But when you are driving in diagnostic muddy waters, the absolute best thing you can do is map the swamp before you find yourself stuck in the middle of it. Thank you for joining this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.